Zhang Xiaoya's house was a small house with each room separated into several small rooms. When I entered her house, the little girl suddenly became enthusiastic, took out slippers, and hung up my coat for me. I looked at the layout and decoration of the living room and realized that this was probably a place where only mother and daughter lived. The feeling here was just like my own house. On the wall of the main room hung a photo of Xiaoya with a middle-aged woman. I thought for sure that the middle-aged woman was Xiaoya's mother. Their smiles in the photo lit up the entire wall. Tuna, do you only live with your mother? Tuna washed the fruit from the kitchen and brought it out to put on the table in front of me. Yes, a few years ago my father died in a car accident. My mother and I lived together, just me and her. Tuna suddenly lowered her head, fiddling with her fingers. The situation like yours and your mother's is very rare, isn't it? No, she only lives with her mother. After hearing my words, the younger brother suddenly stiffened. His eyes looked straight at me, shining with a light as bright as snow, as if he didn't recognize me for a moment. Do you and your mother live together? Not paying much attention to her change, I stood up and walked to the bedroom door. Your mother must be in the bedroom. I want to talk to her. I walked back and pulled open the bedroom door. Our teacher Noyet Kwong is here. Along with the rustling sound of the door being opened, I seemed to smell an unpleasant fishy smell. Because the door was not opened, the bedroom was dark. Only the light from the living room shone in. Only then could I vaguely see the shape of a bed in the bedroom. Xiaoya opened the door and then turned around to leave. She didn't look at me once. When she first opened the door, the intimacy she had for me was gone. I looked into the dark room that had been opened and suddenly felt gloomy in my heart. My trembling hand reached for the doorknob. I didn't have the courage to step inside. I just wanted to close the door. Hello, Ms. Noyet Kwong. Please come in. A gentle voice suddenly came from the room, and all the lights in the room turned on. The visual contrast was so strong that my eyes were dizzy and cold sweat broke out all over my body. The middle-aged woman in the photo was lying on the bed. Even though it was midsummer, she was still covered with a thick cotton blanket, leaving only her head exposed. Her hair was messy, her face was pale, and she looked like she was seriously ill. However, she was staring at me with a very gentle smile on her face. I didn't know if I was mistaken, but I found her smile strangely stiff and forced. I am sick, so I cannot greet you, teacher. I am so sorry. Please come in and sit down. It was hard to refuse the warm affection, so I stepped into the room and sat on the chair next to the bed. The fishy smell grew stronger. I frowned, but it was inconvenient to ask, so I said, "What's wrong with you? It's the middle of summer. You must be feeling very uncomfortable." "I'm not comfortable talking about the disease, ma'am." Chuna's mother's eyes always followed me. After hearing my question, her eyes became gloomy. She was too embarrassed to say anything, so I didn't dare ask again. The suffocating smell made me dizzy and nauseous. I couldn't understand how she could be in this room. I decided to get straight to the point. "Ms. Truong, Tuna's been acting and speaking very strangely at school these past few days. I think there might be some problems with her thinking. And have you discovered anything that doesn't go her way, or is there something wrong with her at home?" Tuna's mother looked up at me and mumbled, "What else could it be besides your illness?" She turned her head back to its original supine position. From that angle, it seemed as if half of her head had been cut off from her back. "Miss Noyet Kwong, the air in this room is not good. I will not keep you any longer. When you go out, please close the door for me." Looking at her expression, it seemed like she already knew something, but since she didn't want to say, I didn't want to ask again. Moreover, I really didn't want to stay here another minute. Standing up, I prepared to leave. "Then I will take my leave. Teacher, please wait a moment." Just as I turned around, suddenly one of Xiaoya's mother's arms reached out from under my back and grabbed my wrist, a sticky and wet feeling. I lowered my head to look, only to see that the flesh on that arm was full of wounds and rotten flesh. I had never seen such a horrible sight before. I was suffocated, then a feeling of nausea welled up. Trying to suppress that feeling of disgust, I asked in a trembling voice, "Is there anything else? I see you're a kind person. So my daughter Chuna needs you to take some effort to take care of her." I will, I replied repeatedly. The arm finally let go of my wrist and retracted back into the blanket. I walked out of the room, feeling a strong sense of unease, wanting to leave the room as quickly as possible. That rotten arm kept appearing before my eyes. The hand is rotten, so what about the rest of the body? Not daring to think further, I took my bag and placed it in a corner of the sofa and said to Chuna, who was sitting with her back turned, "Chuna, I still have work, I'm going home." The girl turned her back to me, not moving. Her long hair looked like a straight black waterfall, lying still on her white t-shirt. "Dunya, only 3 steps away. How could it not hear?" I couldn't help but walk forward. Only then did I discover that the little girl had turned on the computer, staring blankly at the screen. Strange, didn't she tell me not to go online? Why did she turn on her computer as soon as I came to visit? The entire screen of the machine displayed a photo. Although the screen was a bit low and not very clear, I could still see that it was a photo of a mother and daughter together. The mother and daughter in the photo were dressed very simply. The mother looked very beautiful. The daughter was about 14 or 15 years old. The mother and daughter were standing hugging each other in a place that looked like the entrance to a mountain village, smiling brightly in broad daylight. That scene and the photo that Chuna and her mother hung on the wall were so similar that it was terrifying. I stared at the photo, mesmerized. Suddenly, a paper-white face with a blank gaze blocked the screen. "Miss, have you seen this picture before?" "Oh, Xiaoya." I tried to blink. Cold sweat broke out again. "Never seen." Chuna coldly looked up at me. Suddenly she said, "Miss, it's getting late. You should go home. Let me see you off." "No need. I can go home by myself." "Let me see you off." The little girl grabbed my wrist and pulled me out of their house. The place where her fingers gripped was the same place her mother had gripped. Stepping out of the door of the house, seeing the moon shining on the vast land, the cool, fresh air filling my lungs, I felt like my body had instantly become light. "Miss, you go home now." Chuna stood under the moonlight, stopped, and let go of my hand. "Okay, you go home now." I did not stop, walking quickly as if escaping danger forward. After walking a few steps, I could not help but turn back to look. Xiaoya, in white clothes and black hair, was bending towards me. Her body was bent at a 90-degree angle. Her jet black hair was all focused forward and seemed to have touched the ground. Really, I was just taking her home. Such a simple thing. Why do I need to thank her so exaggeratedly? I patted my chest as it was beating hard, turned around, and left very quickly. That night, I had a hard time sleeping, constantly having nightmares. Sometimes it was about Chuna's desperate and dazed face. Sometimes it was Xiaoya's mother, covered in blood, trying to grab me. In my dream, I kept running back and forth, but could not escape Xiaoya's mother and daughter's hands. Finally, I woke up with a start, sitting at the head of the bed, my whole body covered in cold sweat. Ring, ring. The wall clock in Mother's room now chimed the boring hour. It rang all 12 times. Oh my God, it's only midnight. How am I going to spend the rest of the night? I got up from the bed and went to the living room to turn on the TV, then turned the volume down to a very low volume. The light emitted by the TV screen finally dispelled the darkness of the night. I curled up on the sofa, not having the mind to look at the screen. The city channel was currently broadcasting the midnight news. Staring blankly at the television for about 5 or 6 minutes, I was half asleep. At this moment, the television changed. The announcer began to report a traffic accident, and at the same time gave the news a very big name, which was a car crash, to make it more thrilling. The announcer said that tonight, at a certain intersection, a truck had hit a woman who was walking on the pedestrian path and suddenly rushed forward. The woman died at the scene. The thrilling thing was that when the woman went to check her body, she discovered that her entire body, except for her head, had traces of wild animal bites everywhere. Her skin was rotten and festering. Her appearance was extremely tragic. After that, the TV also showed a picture of the woman's head, inviting the woman's relatives or people who knew the situation to contact the police. Seeing the photo of the woman's head, I jumped up from the sofa in shock. My desire to sleep was scared away to Java. Although it was just a quick glance, I still clearly recognized that this woman was Chuna's mother, the person I had just met a few hours ago. A chilling feeling assaulted me from every corner of the room. My heart was beating extremely fast. I, who just finished here, was sitting next to, talking to a dying person. Moreover, she had once used that bloody arm to grab my wrist. Wrist. Thinking of this, my wrist seemed to be grabbed by a cold, wet hand. I raised my hand consciously, and in the dim light, I discovered that my wrist was still covered in a circle of blood. Impossible. There was clearly none at first. My heart was pounding so hard that I couldn't bear it. I ran like crazy into the bathroom, turned on the faucet, put my wrist under the strong running water, and washed it thoroughly. Out of fear, all I could see was a blank white. The mirror in front of the sink suddenly showed a woman with her back turned, revealing an arm covered in bite marks outside her shirt. The figure behind her gradually enlarged and gradually turned back to face me. The sound of water flowing from the faucet was monotonous. I felt like I was locked on the bathroom floor. My heart felt like it was hanging by a string so tight it could break. I could only stare blankly at the woman in the mirror. The woman finally turned around, but I couldn't see her face. Her black hair covered her entire face. Only her high nose broke the wave of hair, allowing me to vaguely see the shape of her nose tip. On the tip of that nose, suddenly there was a piece of rotten flesh. "Miss Noye Kwong, I'm sorry." "Thank you," the woman in the mirror suddenly said to me, then bent down and bowed to me. Very similar to a few hours ago, Trong Chu-na bowed to me like that. Intuitively, although I couldn't see her face, I guessed that 8 or 9 parts of her were Xiaoya's mother. She bowed her head straight towards me. Looking at that scene, her head covered with long hair seemed to be about to shoot out from the glass, pressing down on my head. I had no way to restrain myself any longer and let out a terrified scream, then lost consciousness. When I woke up, my mother was holding me, calling my name and crying. Seeing me awake, she immediately sat down on the tile floor in the bathroom and kept saying, "You scare me to death, you scare me to death. What did you see, or what did you encounter, tell me?" Looking up at S' face, I suddenly felt my whole body's muscles loosen. I hugged and muttered, "Mom, don't worry, I just had a nightmare." "Having a nightmare? Why did you faint here? Tell me the truth. What exactly happened?" Hugging tightly, I looked up at S' gray hair and didn't say another word. I thought to myself that if something really happened, I would have to face it myself and not let my mother worry. On the second day of class, Shai was nowhere to be found in the classroom. I asked the class monitor, and she said she was sick and asked for leave. I had a million words in my heart, but I looked around in disappointment, not knowing who I could tell. In the end, I made up my mind to forget everything that had happened in the past few days. But one evening a few days later, I saw Chuna again. This time, she came to find me on her own. The little girl was still wearing a white t-shirt, still had long black hair, but this time standing in front of me, a Chuna in the remaining sunlight, gave people a feeling of weakness and pity. "Miss." Her hands tightly gripped the strap of her school bag, and she said hesitantly, "Miss, are you free now? What's wrong?" I instinctively avoided her. The events of the past few days had taken root in my mind, causing me to fall into a state of fear every now and then. "Miss," the little girl said. Suddenly tears flowed. Pain and fear filled her eyes. They intertwined. "I don't know who to find. My mother said before she died that I could find you." "Before I died?" My head exploded and hurt so much. That's right. It seems I didn't see wrongly, or maybe I was too scared and had hallucinations in my head. Xiaoya's mother really died in a traffic accident. I remember before she died, she asked me to take care of her. I didn't expect that she would even say these words to Xiaoya. This mother really trusted me. So, that night, she appeared in my bathroom to remind me to take care of Chuna. "I'm not busy at all. Do you have something to tell me? As long as I can, I will definitely not let you and Mom down." I took the little girl to sit on a stone bench by the roadside and comforted her. "Teacher, actually, it was all my fault. My mother was the one who took the blame for me." "Teacher, now I want to tell you the whole story. I hope you believe that everything I say is true."